everybody. Welcome back to episode 4 of Let's Talk About That, a Union University podcast. My name is Fran Thomas, and I am the host for this week's conversation. And you guys are in for a beautiful treat. We have the privilege of having Eva Grace Bedell on the show this week. Eva Grace is a current Union student. She's a senior, and she has got an honest story that is full of twists and turns, ups and downs. But she is brave, you guys. She is brave to come on here and tell us her story, how she found Union, and what has happened to her in the last 3 years as a student. And you are going to find yourself at the end of this show grinning from ear to ear and thanking the Lord for what he has done in her life. So Eva Grace, I am so thankful to know you and honored to call you friend, and I deeply appreciate your time, but most of all, your willingness to share your story with us. All right, everybody, thanks for listening. Enjoy the show. Okay, this is so much fun for me, and I have got to share with the listeners how this came to be, Eva Grace.
Yes.
And let me just say this too. You have a name. I think I've said this to you before. You have a name that I want to say your whole name.
I love that. I've always thought of people that they're like a full name person, but I never thought of myself as one. And so I'm kind of honored that you think that.
No, you are. I'm not, but you are. You are Eva Grace Bedell.
I love that.
And so if I call you that in the middle of this, just go with it, okay?
That's okay. I answer to that too.
Okay, because I love it so much. But I need you to know, let me remind you, I want the listeners to know, how in the world did I discover you, find you? Why do I have you on this particular podcast? And it's this past summer, Union has new student orientation where the incoming freshman class, they come, they participate in orientation. They're doing all these fun things over the course of a couple of days. Well, having had worked in admissions here at Union for so long, I didn't have a role or participate in this, what we call NSO, because that was a student life function. And I just didn't know a whole lot of the mechanics and what happens during NSO. But somebody asked me, maybe Joe Ball, maybe Sally Forrester, someone asked me to come and listen to you and what you had to say to students, to this incoming class. And so I did that. And the whole time I was standing in the back thinking two things. A of all, why did this girl not work for me in admissions? Why was she not a student ambassador? Where has she been my whole life? And now she's a senior and she's about to graduate. And then most importantly, the reason why you're here is I could tell there was a really meaningful, deep, interesting, hard story about your life. Mm-hmm. And so I reached out to you about this, which felt a little odd because we know of one another, right, but we don't know each other. And you came into my office recently to share the entirety of your story. And I was like, this is incredible. So this is why we're here today, because in the context of Let's Talk About That, a Union University podcast, this is an episode where I have no doubt anybody and everybody, whether they have any connection to Union or not, they're intrigued and interested about who you are and how you found Union and your journey here so far up until this last year. So I'm just really, all that to say, I'm very, very thankful for your willingness and your honesty and what you're about to share with us. And it's going to be encouraging to a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm so excited, and I'm so glad you say that, because we always wonder, it's a hard story, or there's parts of it that are hard. And in the moment of those hard things, you're like, God, why? Or just why is this happening? And then it's cool for me to sit here right now or be in a situation like where I'm speaking at NSO and just knowing like, this is exactly why. Like God wants me to share this. God is giving me opportunities to share this. And so I'm just feeling really honored and blessed to get to do that.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, here we go. Tell us, people always need to know context. So give us as much or as little background information that you want to about. Tell us where you're from. Tell us about your family. Let's talk a little bit about that, and then maybe that will lead us into how you found Union and what that first year, that freshman year was like.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm from Poplar Bluff, Missouri, which is about 2.5 hours. People always think that Missouri is super far from Tennessee, but I'm like, no, there's a little section that touches, and I'm really close to that little section. So I am from Missouri. Grew up with, my parents and my two younger brothers. Great family. Christian family, grew up in the church, as a lot of people start out, their stories saying here. A big part of my testimony is has to do a lot with my family, just because when I was in middle school, my dad ended up going to a rehabilitation center, a Christian rehabilitation center, for drug use, and that was that had a big impact on my family. At the time, obviously, because, as a kid, I really didn't know what was going on, why it was going on, why my dad was gone for 6 months. And that was a lot. And I think that kind of, a situation like that, it's difficult, and it can leave some trauma and can lead some hard things for, kids that are young, middle school, like I was. I will say there's a super happy ending to that story, which I feel like I have to give credit where it's due. But, my dad went to that rehab center and came back, and just seeing his strength through that, and then my mom's strength sticking through those things, and my dad working through and rededicating his life to the Lord and coming back, and my mom, standing strong and taking care of her 3 kids for 6 months by herself, dealing with everything that was going on in her marriage. And then them coming back and being like, we're going to rebuild our life together. And so obviously that was hard. But as I look back over the course of my life and things I struggled with past then, when I would look at my family and the way that God brought them through that, brought them on the other side, like they say this themselves, like, there was no way, like, without the Lord, that any of that would have worked out. Like, that just doesn't happen.
Right.
And so just really seeing his faithfulness in our lives, in my dad's life, in my family's life, was something I really looked back on later, as I was, coming to know the Lord more and kind of starting to surrender my life. That was such a big part of it.
What a beautiful example. And, so much of hard situations like that, you don't appreciate it in the moment, whether it doesn't matter your age, but especially in middle school and early high school, you didn't understand fully what was happening and the beauty that you had just witnessed.
Right.
And so it takes time and maturity and age to be able to look back and go, oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. It's crazy. I can't even believe it. And just looking at where we were then, and obviously, when he got back, things weren't just peachy all over again. He ended up leaving his old job and just kind of starting over. And our home church was so kind to offer him a job, and it was kind of something he had never, he just wasn't in that area. It was awesome, and there were so many people that rallied behind us, and just getting to see the growth and, like I said, the faithfulness. It's just crazy. I'm really proud of him. I'm really proud of my mom for everything.
Absolutely.
It was a big part of my testimony.
Well, absolutely. And it's not finished, clearly.
Right. No, it's not. Yeah, we're just getting started.
Okay, so at what point did you start considering college? Was that your junior year of high school, your senior year? I mean, even though, yes, you're from Poplar Bluff, Missouri, Union is this wonderful little nugget of a school in West Tennessee. So a lot of times it gets missed. We can get overlooked. So I'm curious as to how this process began for you. Where were you spiritually in your life? How did you feel about coming here? All that good stuff.
Yes. So, well, what you're saying about Union's this little nugget that people don't always know about, especially in Poplar Bluff, because we had one big public school, a couple private schools that were super, super, super tiny. So everyone went to public school. And we get a lot of private school, homeschooled people
Right.
here at Union, and that just wasn't what my town, that just
Right.
wasn't really a part of my town. And so not a lot of people from Poplar Bluff end up coming here.
Yeah.
But my dad was really good friends with someone whose two of his kids came here. One of them is Elizabeth Caldwell, who Ted Cluck actually knows because she went through his journalism program.
Shout out.
Yeah, shout out to her. But she was kind of like one of my little friend mentors because when I was starting to enter high school, she was entering college, and we spent a lot of time together. And she obviously, really loved Union, and her family really loved Union. And so that's kind of how my dad heard about it.
Okay.
I will say most of my time throughout high school, there were fluctuations, of course, with my faith, and there were times where I felt like, I really want to do this, or I'm really on fire for this, or this is something I really want to do.
Right. But
But most times it was, I really don't want to do this, and I don't really want to live by the Lord or for the Lord. And it's really crazy to me how I could go from one extreme to the other, because that probably happened like 10 times. And it would be like, I'm here, it's whatever, fall of my sophomore year, and I want nothing to do with God. I don't even know if I believe in God right now. And I just want to grow up and get out of my family and never go to church again. And I don't want to do that.
Right.
Or it would be like the summer after my sophomore year, and I would go to a camp with my youth group, and I'd be like, no, I want to do this. But, I think all those were kind of based on just emotional moments, and it wasn't based in any, I guess, root where I was like, fully wanting to surrender my life.
yeah.
I never reached that point, which was why I was so easily flipped back and forth. And so I think it was probably about my junior year when I started thinking about college. And my parents from the start were kind of low key throwing in there like, we're paying for your school, so you're going to go where we want you to go, which is definitely going to be a Christian school. And I probably just avoided thinking about it because I was like, there is absolutely no way I want to go to a Christian school.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Where were a lot of your friends going? Were they going to state
Mizzou,
schools?
Missouri State, Arkansas. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really hardly knew anyone.
So that makes it even harder.
That makes it even harder.
Because you're like, I want to go where they're going.
Yeah, I want to go where they're going.
Yeah.
They're going to get the full college experience.
Right,
I
absolutely.
wanted the freedom. Like, I was like, when I leave here, I'm going to have the freedom to do whatever I want. No one telling me anything.
Absolutely.
And I was like, if I go to a Christian school, that's not going to be the case.
It's going to be horrible, right?
Exactly. And this is something funny that I always think about is because my parents were super big, which they always, claim, just any Christian school, a Christian school. But they loved Union, and they wanted me at Union because they saw that it was the true Christian community, not just Christian in name only, all of that. So that's what they wanted. Me, I was like, I'll go to any Christian school but Union because I knew when I was here, I was like, this is the real deal, and I didn't want the real deal. So I was like, please, maybe this place. But I still remember the night that they were just kind of like, no, you're going here. And I cried and cried and cried. It was crazy.
Were you a senior in high school? Like, you knew that senior year, this is where I'm going.
Yeah, I think it was like November my senior year.
Had you come on campus for a visit?
Yeah, I had come. And honestly, I enjoyed when I was here. I met great people when I was here. I just...
You just didn't want this experience.
I didn't want the environment. Yeah. I didn't want...
Okay, well, however it works out, a little bit of parents, a little bit of the Lord, a little bit of a lot of things,
Right.
You ended up here.
Exactly.
Talk to us about that transition, because let's just remind people, like, even I've heard your story before, but you have this crisis happening within your family when you're in middle school. Middle school and high school are just hard no matter what. It's just a difficult time.
Yeah.
You are trying to figure out who you are, trying to figure out where you're going to go to school. You land here at Union. You're probably, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but you're probably just kind of like, like, you're here and it's fine, but you're looking back over your shoulder at all of your other high school friends doing their thing.
Right.
And then here you are, you're getting moved in. Do you know anybody when you come here? Did you know your roommates?
Yeah, I knew... I had briefly talked to some of my roommates. My one roommate who I'm still friends with today, and this is kind of getting into, I don't know, I don't want to get too off track.
No, you're good.
because how I know Carly is like another separate story, which is like 100% the Lord, probably my favorite thing that's ever happened to me at Union ever. So I don't want to get off track into that. Maybe we can revisit that later. But I knew Carly super well, and we had kind of established, a friendship even before moving in. And I knew a lot of other people.
Is she from Poplar Bluff?
No, she is from Hendersonville, Tennessee. Okay. We met at Scholars.
Okay.
Yes, and we so we were friends. Her and I together were friends with Grace, now Beasley, and Avery Lopez. And so I knew them coming in, and I was excited, for that part of it and getting to see them.
Yeah.
I kind of forgot the rest of the question.
No, so you get moved in.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so you go through recruitment.
Yes.
Rush. Mm-hmm. We're not Bama Rush TikTok here.
We're not.
But you go through Rush, you pledge Chi-O.
Mm-hmm.
What is the freshman year like? What is that transition? The transition, I say, I don't care who you are. The best visual that I have to explain that transition, and I said this a lot to parents and to students too, but students don't listen to me like the parents would, but it's like if you put yourself, Eva Grace, in this beautiful snow globe, mm-hmm. and it's shaking.
Yeah.
For a solid year, really.
Yeah.
And because everything is upside down, nothing is stable, nothing is, it's not like it was when you have spent 18 years, good or bad. Mm-hmm. 18 years, you've experienced such familiar things, right. The school, your family, mm-hmm. Your extracurricular, just your life was pretty predictable. Your mom did this for you. Your dad did this for you. Yeah. You didn't have to worry about things. Mm-hmm. Things just existed, and you were just like in this safe little snow globe. Mm-hmm. And then that freshman year comes, and it's being shaken.
Yeah.
And everything is going to settle somehow, some way. And it's kind of brutal because you're figuring out just basic life skills, which don't seem like that big of a deal, but they really are, because you're determining, who are you, mm-hmm. Eva Grace? What do you believe? Mm-hmm. How do you feel about school? You get to make your very own decisions about everything. Yeah. What am I going to eat? When am I going to eat?
Right.
When am I going to sleep? Do I even need sleep?
Right.
You've got all this freedom that you have to sort through. So tell us what that first year or two, however much you want to tell us, because again, as your story and your journey progresses, it's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. So really a lot of cognitive dissonance, maybe that's the right term, for my freshman year, because it's crazy because I thought at home, which, when I was in my family, that was a Christian environment. In my church, that was a Christian environment. But I kind of had this escape, which was school, not a Christian environment whatsoever. But really at Union, it was like everywhere I go is a Christian environment. And like we said earlier, really didn't want that. And you talk about, pledging Chi-O and all that. And so it was like everywhere I go, I see people living a certain way. And they are having a good time, but I just wanted to have a good time in different ways. And I really just kind of rejected the lives around me that everyone else was living. And so freshman year, it was like all the newfound freedom. And I always swore that wouldn't be me, but the newfound freedom that I had in just not having someone asking where I am all the time or all those things, I just took a little bit too much advantage of that. And so it was also like seeing everyone around me and just having, I don't know, just my heart was so hardened toward Christianity that my freshman year, despite the fact that I was more engulfed in a Christian environment, I thought about God less my freshman year than my entire life.
Wow.
Because I just kind of solidified that wall and put it up. And I told you this, but like I was literally clinging to any worldly ideas that made sense for, like, why am I here and what am I doing?
That's not uncommon.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's not.
It's just that we don't talk about it.
Right.
But we're talking about it today because it's important.
Yeah.
It's important.
That's the thing, is people need to fill the hole, and the God-shaped hole in their hearts, and so they're going to turn to anything. And I was turning to anything under the sun to just try to, I don't know, like just enjoy myself, be happy, but it was like I wasn't happy. Like it was very self-destructive. It was very I wasn't happy, and I didn't have joy.
Yeah.
I literally, and it's just as crazy for me to think about this, but I told you, like, this idea of solipsism is this idea that nothing is actually real, and everything that you're experiencing in your life is just imaginary. It's just your brain making up, putting it on the show for you. And I was like actually trying to find hope in that idea.
Yeah.
Because it made all of the mistakes I was making and all of the, just self-destructive behaviors thing. It made it feel like, you know what, these things don't even actually matter. I can keep doing them and it doesn't matter. And that's crazy. It's crazy to try to find hope in an idea like that. Like,
well, and especially when you're coming from a background of, I grew up in the church.
Yeah.
Christianity's not foreign to me. But again, it goes back to any parent that's listening to this. I think we understand logically that our children have to find out who they are in regards to their faith and their belief system. Like, we get that, but we want it to be safer and neater and not destructive in any way. We just kind of want you to sit around and think about it and have good discussion with people and then sit at the table with those people and go, okay, you're right.
Yeah, I know.
Instead of walking down some really scary, dark paths.
I know. And my dad, he would always say this to me. He said this to me throughout high school. He'd be like, I was the type of person where you could tell me something and I would have to go bump my head a few times to kind of figure out what you were saying was true. And he's like, I just don't want you to be like that. Yeah. And I was like that. So I'll probably say the same thing to my kids too one day.
Don't touch the stove. Don't touch the stove. And you're like, oh, watch me. I'm about to touch the stove.
I know. And he was right, of course, when he said that. But yeah, it was hard. I just, all sorts of mental health struggles. And honestly, a lot of them were just due to my own decisions that I was making. I just, it was a lot. Okay,
so something clearly turns around.
Right.
I mean, did you just wake up one day and say, Eva Grace, I've had enough of this? But, I think that as parents, if that's our child, and I've had that child before, and I was that child, which granted, I didn't know the Lord at all, so I, didn't have any kind of basis for good, healthy decision making, just whatever I wanted to do. But, nonetheless, the Lord is constantly at work in our lives. When we are off the rails, He is constantly at work. Were there people involved? Were they your friends, your roommates, professors? Did you sit in chapel one day and the Lord was like, whatever? I don't know. What was that change for you? What was that turnaround for you?
Yeah. There's a million. I'll touch on a few specific ones. First, you mentioned professors, and I'll give a shout out to Dr. Evans. I'm not a political science major anymore, but I'm still going to shout him out because
Sean Evans.
Yeah, he's the best. I was just kind of at my wits' end. Again, mistakes, academically, you could tell. I think he could tell. I was just off. I don't know. And I just kind of met with him one day, and I just was kind of, I was just kind of at my breaking point. And I just felt terrible because I was like, I'm a terrible student. And it's just because of my own, mistakes and my own choices. And he just kind of sat with me, and I just expected him, to be upset or just kind of to be frustrated at the, the choices and stuff. And he just showed me love. Like, it was just all love. And it was just all like, how can I be here for you? And it was like a counseling session, honestly. And I just remember leaving that and being like, I really didn't deserve that. Like, I didn't deserve, I deserved at least a little bit of a chewing out or some sort of punishment, something. And it was just all love. And so I remember that was a moment for me where I was like, what am I doing? Like, this type of environment, these type of people are in front of me, and I haven't taken any sort of advantage of it. And so that was a really big moment for me. I don't even know if he knows that, so maybe I'll tell him to listen to it so he can hear me talk about it. That was big. And then my roommate Carly, who I mentioned earlier, and I don't think she'll mind me mentioning this, but she was kind of in a similar boat. We were kind of in that boat together. And she was honestly much better at me and it happened much sooner for her to kind of take a step back and be like, what are we doing and why are we doing it?
Right.
And so that was definitely a big influence on me. And I think we just ended freshman year, like that last week of freshman year, we were just like, I don't know. This just, it really isn't all it was cracked up to be, you know, the lives that we're living and what we're doing. And so it was never, this specific moment, it all turned around. This specific moment all turned around. I mentioned Grace and Avery earlier. They were great influences. Greek life, like Kyle as a whole in general, was great because I saw these people living their lives. And it was like they actually are experiencing happiness and joy and peace. And I don't have any of that right now. And they just really poured into me, despite the fact that I probably wasn't a great friend because I just wasn't, you know, emotionally really there. And they just poured into me. And so seeing that, and I just remember too, like going home that summer, and I was sitting in my car after work, and I was like, I know what I want for my life long term. You know, like I know that I want to live a Christian life. I want to marry a Christian. I want to have Christian babies. I want to have Christian community, Christian friends. And I was like, if I was a Christian right now looking for friends, I wouldn't be able to have that type of community with me, you know, with someone like me.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, if I wanted to date a Christian wouldn't date me right now.
Wow.
Like it was all, and those things just started clicking. And I was like, if I want those things for my life, I have to become that person.
Oh, wow.
Obviously, I did not become that person on my own. There was no way whatsoever I would have been able to do that on my own. But like you said, I mean, the Lord was just so evident through all of it. And honestly, freshman year is a blur, but it's like, really all I remember is God was doing everything to put the people in my life and put things in my life to wake me up and be like, come on, like, listen and look at me. And it's crazy because I just always think, I'm like, I ran so far away, just wanted nothing to do with God, didn't believe in him, kind of did believe in him, but chose not to just because I didn't want to live my life for him. Right. And it was like, he was right. He never moved. Yeah. That's crazy to me.
Right.
Because I'm like, I literally was running miles away. Right. And he was just right there, still in my heart, still just doing everything he could for me to bring me back. That's crazy. Yeah. You know, prodigal son, like that. Yeah. That's just crazy to me. And it was just all those little moments of the people and just convictions of my heart and things like that. It's just crazy.
Was your family aware of that freshman year?
Not explicitly, but I think they kind of were. I remember so many phone calls with my mom where she just was like, I don't know, she was just trying to get anything out of me. And I just really, I didn't even talk to them a lot because it was like, what do I tell you about what's going on in my life? I can't tell you all of it. And this summer, actually, I kind of told my mom really just all of it. Yeah. And I was like, I never told you this before because it's embarrassing and because you're my mom and because all of this. But it was like, it was just time, you know, to lay it all out there and be like, this was really what was going on. Yeah. So, I mean, they know. Yeah. They know now. But
when you think about, I mean, you're starting your senior year. You're now in your senior year. What's your major? You're not political science.
No, it was not
relations. Public relations. That's right. It wasn't anything about the fabulous Sean Evans. It's just part of finding your way. It's part of that snow globe. Just things have to settle, and you've got to sort some things out. Right. So you're in your senior year now, and I know when you hit that year, when this year begins for people, because I've seen it happen over and over again with students, is that you're in this tension of, I'm looking ahead and I'm looking back, and you think, oh my gosh, look at what all has happened in 3 years. 3 years. And so you tend to, you are reflective now. When you think about your time here at Union, what have you, outside of what, we don't want to say what you've already said, but when you think about, this is what I love most about Union, whether it's the institution as a whole, whether, it's, let's talk a little bit more about the people. I mean, people focused is definitely one of our core values. What do you look back on and you go, okay, this is why people need to consider Union. This is what I love most about Union. Yeah. What do you say to that?
Yeah, it just, I mean, I've been really like teary the last month, and I'm like teary right now because I just am like, I don't know. I think about, some of my leadership positions through like student leadership, CAIO, the people in my life, the fact that I got engaged, like just makes me want to cry because I'm like, all these people took a chance on me when I did not deserve it.
Well, when you recognize, look at who I used to be.
Yeah,
listen, you've said you've wanted all these things.
I know.
And now they're coming. Now they've happened.
I know.
And they are happening.
I know.
The kindness of the Lord is incredible.
Yeah.
And that's what makes you teary.
Exactly.
It's the kindness of the Lord in this place.
Yes. I never in a million years would have dreamed that I would be here. I never. And so it's like, when you talk about the kindness of the Lord and you talk about the kindness of the Lord through his people and the graciousness, and that's what, going back to that story with Dr. Evans, it's like people showed me grace and love when I did not deserve it.
Yeah.
And the Lord is so evident in everything that happens at Union because we put him at the center of all of it.
Right.
And so that's why in my friendships with my roommates or my friendships in general or my friendships in Greek life or my relationships with my professors, that's why I can look back at all those moments and see God working through all of those moments because the institution as a whole and the people here are committed to that.
Right.
It's like, it doesn't get better than that.
Right.
There's nothing, it really doesn't. And so he's just a part of everything. And so he works through everything.
Well, and you didn't have that perspective at 17
No.
and 18. You knew it logically because
Right.
you've heard similar type things said before.
Right.
But until you've actually lived in it and experienced it, and that's what we hope is that for every student that's here, regardless of their journey, they have their own. Everybody has their own.
Yeah.
And I know without a doubt, you and I would both stand in front of people and say, just surrender.
Yeah.
It's not scary. What are you afraid of?
No.
But it's always worth, asking, who am I? And who am I becoming? And does it have anything to do with the Lord?
Right. I know. That's so true. And this is what I said in my speech to the freshmen at New Student Orientation. This is what I would want all of them to know, everyone to know, is Union offers you every resource and opportunity to grow in the Lord. It is truly up to you if you're going to take it or not. It's really up to you. And that requires you surrendering your life. And like you said, it's not scary. It feels so scary to give up what you want. And then when you're on the other side, which of course it's still a daily battle, but when you're on the other side and you're like, this is so much more fulfilling to me. This is what's filling the hole, not any of the other things.
Right.
And it's like, just take advantage of what he's given you and what he's put into this place here. Like you can't find that anywhere else,
Eva Grace, I am so thankful. I'm so thankful for your willingness to share your story. It's absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
And it's not uncommon.
Yeah.
And I do hope and pray that even if a student is listening to this or of any age, they're going to understand. They're going to understand because the world seems very enticing.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's a whole lot more fun.
Yeah.
But until we're honest, until we are honest with our own lives and our own story, and we are willing to be humble and surrender to what we know should be, could be, is better, then, we're not going to grow in the way that we want to grow, and we're going to continue to run ourselves ragged because of the things of this world. So I do pray that people, moms, dads, students of every age are encouraged. I know they will be encouraged by your honesty. And you're how old? 21?
22.
22. Just got engaged. And you are about to experience maybe one of the best, most fulfilling years of your life here at Union. And I'm so glad that you listened to your parents.
Me too. They're going to love hearing this.
I'm so glad, I'm glad that you experienced what you experienced your freshman year.
Yeah.
the Lord is going to get our attention in a variety of ways. Nothing is off limits. And it's our flesh. Our flesh has one agenda, and the spirit within us has another, and they're always at battle. And I'm very thankful for you. Thank you for your honesty and your courage, and just being so brave to share who you are.
Yeah, of course. And you say your story's beautiful. Nothing about me or like what, it's just the Lord, his kindness. That's what's beautiful. That's what makes the whole thing beautiful. So all the credit is to him.
Absolutely.
And I'm, again, like, just so thankful for my parents, and just seeing, and I'll circle back to that maybe since we started with that, but like seeing where my dad came from and where he ended up and my family as a whole. I mean, that was the one thing that was like, he did it, I can do it, and I'm going to do it,
Yeah.
The turnaround in his life, the way, just all of it. And then the way that my mom handled all of it, only through the Lord's strength. And so,
that I know we're done, but just hearing you say that the way your mom handled it, Dr. Evans handled it just like your mom. Like you were seeing that, and you didn't even realize my mom set the precedence for this, but then now here I am seeing it with my very own life.
That's so true. That is so true.
And you didn't even know it.
I know. It's people who have the Lord's strength to be gracious and to continue showing love and sacrifice to people who don't necessarily deserve it in the moment.
Yeah.
And that has such a big impact.
Yeah.
And that's, You're right.
Full
circle.
Isn't the Lord so good?
Isn't he so good?
Isn't he so good? Thank you, my friend.
Of course. I'm so honored to be here.
Thank you for being here. Today we talked about it. We talked about it. And I just, again, appreciate your honesty.
Of course.
You're going to change lives through sharing your story on this podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be here.
Goodness gracious, everybody. If you have questions or want to contact Eva Grace, please reach out to myself. I will always have my email address in the show notes, so you can send me an email and I will get you in contact with her. If you're the parent, or if you're a high school student, or even a current union student, we want you all to have that conversation if you're interested. Okay, thanks again for listening to episode 4 of Let's Talk About That. Y'all have a great day. We appreciate you so much.